So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I just want to start today a little bit differently by inviting you to just pause here. Just pause for a second, just for a moment, and just notice your breath. And in a world that is constantly pulling us in different directions, taking a moment, just that moment to ground ourselves can probably be the most compassionate act of self-care. So take that pause. I invite you to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. If not, just soften your gaze. Take a deep breath in and let it out slowly. Feel the chair or cushion supporting your body. Your feet rooted to the floor. Noticing the rise and fall of your belly or chest with the rise and fall of your breath. And as you breathe, simply allow yourself to arrive here fully in this moment. And in this moment, notice any tension, any thoughts trying to pull you away. And it's okay. Acknowledge them and gently bring your focus back to your breathing. Take one more deep breath in and out. And for the next section, you can keep your eyes closed or you can leave it open as we go further into understanding how we can rewire for positivity. As we all know that the brain, the most important, some may argue, organ in our body, but I believe there are other organs which compete as well. So there is this idea of brain as the most important, but actually when you look at it, the whole body and brain are so connected that you cannot make the difference. So I don't really like to say that the brain is the most important, but in this case I think what we are talking about is how important it is for our change. So the brain is naturally wired for negativity, and we all know this, so that all those worries, doubts and self-criticisms, they are not just in your head, they are kind of hard-coded in our day-to-day existence. And this kind of takes over your joy, happiness. It's designed to keep you safe, so it's not designed to keep you happy. But we often think that we kind of have a stable mind and it's something which we have done for a long time, so it cannot change. But that is far from the truth. I think we can all change our minds. We can, quote unquote, rewire it. And can we actually train it to see the good as much as we see the negatives or the bad? And when life gets so messy, can we notice more of the positive things? And the answer is yes, to a certain extent. Of course, there is the bias towards negativity. Obviously, we'll have more negative thoughts because that's what keeps us safe. But that does not mean we cannot bias ourselves towards positivity also. So that's what we are exploring today. So how can mindfulness help rewire your brain and mind for positivity and transform the way you experience hope and optimism So think about this. When was the last time you were caught up in a negative thought loop where you were hard on yourself, or you were disgusted at something you did, and or you were noticing the bad things that happened to you, or something which caught your eye, which brought you a negative energy. And the common theme would be, we end up believing this negative thought much more deeply than any other thought. And this is a difficult situation, because when you say I am good, or I am good for something, I'm good at certain things, automatically the mind starts to churn out the reasons why you may not be good. And we believe that kind of narrative. Whereas if we say the opposite, so for example, if I actively say I am not good, the mind does not have enough positive references for you to counter that. And this is all about practice. And it's not like something is wrong with us. It is just that we don't have the vocabulary, we have not trained ourselves, just like we have trained ourselves in the negative. So when we overly believe the negative aspects or this negative side of our mind, it can play havoc with our truths. So whenever you hear next time yourself saying, oh, I'm not this, I'm not that, this is not good for me, just pause in that moment and try to bring up as many positive references you may have to counter that. It could be as simple as, that is not true, or that is not true 100% of the time. This is clearly a very general statement. Can we get more specific? And if we start to play a kind of a game with your negative self-talk, it actually loses its power. So when we start to notice we are chatting too much about our negative, counter that with a lot more positive verbs, for positive action verbs. I am doing great, I am running, I am healthy, I am moving, I do certain things, I help people, I do this, I do that. And making sure that whenever you hear this negative talk, you have, without judgment, you have some answers. So this is why it's important to not get rid of negativity bias. We cannot get rid of something which is inherently in all beings. I think it is the noticing, it's the observation of the surroundings. That's what we call negativity bias. And you can notice this in animals. Animals outside of us. So like the animals, when they get stressful, they have a stressful moment, they do something to reactivate. I don't know how their self-talk works, but often they get back simply to doing what they were doing and what they were focused on, and immediately by actually actioning themselves. So like, it is very important to understand that negativity bias does not mean you are stuck. Yeah, feeling the stress response is different from suffering the stress response. So how can we do this? I think through practicing mindfulness based techniques, we interrupt this cycle. So noticing, as soon as you notice a negative thought coming into your brain or mind that we get trapped in, we call pause. We shout pause. Okay, what am I trying to say? I am not good at this. Is that really true? How do you know that is true? I am good at this. People have said I am good at this. People have congratulated me on certain things. So why would you say that? What is the need? And then when you start to dig deeper, it may be a little bit of insecurity. It may be a little bit of fear from the past. It may be fear of failure, rejection, whatever it is. There's the underlying need or the underlying element of your life which is holding you back, which is creating this negativity bias because it thinks it's unsafe. So knowing that it is safe, it is okay, you'll be fine, reiterating these positive messages can help you overcome this negativity loop, but also develop the skills of more positive bias or the positivity bias. So we talk about negativity bias. I think it is time to look really into positivity bias as well. So we often say, okay, negativity bias, it's something we cannot change, but something we can change is positivity bias. And more you practice positivity bias, your the weighing scales or the balance starts to shift. And I am again not saying that you will completely just be positive all the time, which is not the intention, but it's balancing the scales a bit more in favor. So positivity bias helps you in situations where you have been overwhelmed with negativity in your life. So how does this rewire or the change happen? So studies have shown that mindfulness can change the brain structure. This is clear. It strengthens various areas of our brain and body. And it also reduces this activation of these fight-flight chemicals or fight-flight hormones. And it reduces the activation in certain areas of the brain which helps really tune into those negative elements. So by practicing mindfulness, you're training the brain to pause, to see the bigger picture, and to consciously choose positive interpretations. So it sounds too simple sometimes, but the practice changes the neural connections, the pathways, boosting optimism and reducing depressive symptoms even. So shifting your focus from what's wrong to what's right consistently over time changes your brain, changes the way you interact with yourself and others. And you may have experienced this. If you are a seasoned practitioner listening to this, you may have experienced this where when you have been practicing mindfulness for a while and then you stop, you start to see the difference in how you are so caught up in a lot of negativity. And this has happened to me. This has happened to all practitioners I've spoken to, is when we stop the practice for a while or don't do it as much as before, you feel different. You start to notice that your negativity is becoming stronger. While when you were practicing, yes, there is still the negative thoughts, but the way in which you started to relate to them was so different. So this is why even formal practice or an informal practice or just paying attention, just noticing whatever is happening to you is very important. So as we started this session, we talked about gratitude, and even writing 3 things down you're grateful on a consistent basis can change dramatically the structure of your brain. And it is completely science-based, evidence galore, so it is not something which is plucked out of the air. it actually changes. Literally everything you experience changes the brain in some way. So that's another aspect. But when you say how it changes the structure and the relationships within the connections in your brain, is it starts to form new connections. So it will go through the connections which you have not previously gone through. Most of our life we are living the same connections we've created in the past. And this is the sad reality, is that we basically live each day the same way. We change a little bit. We change 5% of what? 5 to 10% maximum. But the rest of it is the same thing you've done for the last however many years. So if you don't change it, if you don't interrupt it, if you don't notice it, and I'm not saying you have to get rid of all the 90%, suddenly just transform yourself into something you don't feel accustomed to, but even bringing awareness to the vast amount of things we do the same, and it's not helping us. You have a choice there. You have a choice to change it. And this is what rewiring means. So rewiring means you're changing those patterns of habit. And people always say this, this anecdote of negativity is like a Velcro and then positivity is like a Teflon. And to a certain extent, yes. And I think it's because we practice negativity too much that it becomes a Velcro. And I'm arguing from my side that it can be the opposite. You can be a Teflon for negativity and Velcro for positivity. And this is the idea I want you to take away from the session, is it is possible to change that dynamics. So whenever you face a negative event or negative experience, it slides down. Yeah, you're aware, okay, this is negative, let's go, next. And then you bring a positive experience, you actually immerse in it. You're like, okay, this is very interesting. I want to notice this more. So if you get good feedback from someone, if somebody says something nice about you, instead of dismissing it, this is what we do. We say it's Teflon because when was the last time when somebody said nice thing about you and you actually listened and you're like, okay, yeah, you're right, I am nice. Whereas how many times have you said when somebody has asked you or told you, oh, you're not good at this, yeah, you're right, I'm not good at this. So this is why we call this, it's not true that the negativity is a Velcro and positivity is Teflon. I think we made it like that. Of course there is a bias, but we can change that dynamics. And that's what I would like you to think about, take away from all of this, from understanding positivity. And another aspect of positivity is called optimism. And this optimism is not just a trait, it's a skill you can develop. Optimistic people interpret setbacks as opportunities and temporary and specific rather than permanent and pervasive. But having said that, optimism is less about any particular action. I think it's a state. It's a skill you develop as a state. So you are in any situation optimistic, even when things may or may not be stacked against you. That is something subjective, but in a state of experience, you bring this attitude of optimism where you're consciously practicing, it'll be okay. Even if it is a difficult situation, it'll be okay. This will be good for me. This is excellent. This is new. This is wonderful. I feel better. I hope this will be useful for me. So these are optimistic thoughts you can cultivate as a skill. But let's not confuse optimism with denial. And often we get caught up in that loop. So if there is any positivity talk, we have to address this specific point, which is the optimism trap. Is the toxic positivity when we ignore and suppress all difficult emotions and just say, okay, everything is positive, everything is positive. That's not what we are talking about here. True optimism is facing challenges directly with clarity and choosing hope anyway. So you're facing it, yeah, this is a difficult situation, but I hope for a better future. I hope this will change, and I hope I can change, and I hope this will change for you, etc. So that was a little bit about positive rewiring. Now I want you to think about areas in your life where you seem to be overly negative about yourself. And I want you to put it through this: negativity is a Teflon and positivity is the Velcro. So I want you to start to imagine any positive experience you have, you embrace it, you immerse yourself in. Any negative experience you have, I encourage you to experience it, but let it go. Practice the letting go. Practice being kind to yourself. Practice also telling yourself this negativity doesn't mean it's true. And you can choose a different narrative. So next time you're faced with the setback, pause, acknowledge, and without judgment, bring positive thoughts about it to yourself. What's the one positive outcome that you could get from this? This isn't about sugarcoating reality. It's about training your brain to see opportunities, and it's everywhere, even in adversity. And I remember, especially working with people in this space who struggled with constant worry about themselves and their own insecurities, their own meaning, even though from outward these people portrayed the skills of knowing everything, they understood everything, they were really saying, yeah, I am like this, I have been like this, so I don't think there is anything out there. I feel a negative about most of the things. And this is like people I work with anyway. So like their constant worry is that I know what to do, but nothing seems to work for me. And this is a negative thought loop, which we often get caught up, is like, yeah, I know all of this. This is all very simple. But how does... I don't think it works for me because this is not my situation. And this is true not just for a lot of us, but a lot of people who go through difficult changes in their lives as well. But what I essentially work with them is about, try this with an open heart. So okay, this is a practice, you have to try. If you don't try, you don't change, you just stay the same. So if you want to try, I invite them into practicing 7 days of positive talk. And what it does is it completely reframes your perspective. And in this practice, 7 days of positive talk is you pick a positive talk you love. Okay? And this can be anything. You might have heard it on the internet. Go search for it. Find a book that you really love about positivity. There must be some exercises there. It doesn't have to be specific. It doesn't have to be anything. All I'm asking is for 7 days straight, morning and before you go to bed, read it and write it. So read whatever it is, or hear whatever they're saying. Okay, this is positivity. And you then take that and you write it for 7 days straight. This is the first exercise I give them to actually start to see for themselves what change means. Often people try it for few times and they're like, okay, this is interesting, but I don't know where this adds value. But where it adds value is a little bit more longer. So people often just do 2-3 days and they're like, okay, I'm done. Doesn't seem to work. But if you hang around for a few more days, you start to see the changes. So I encourage all those people who come to me with self-doubt is to do the 7-day exercise, and I encourage you to do it as well for the next 7 days. Take a pen, paper, keep a journal, record yourself, and then actually it's even better. So if you all have a phone, use the phone, record yourself saying these positive things to you, and then replay it every day, and then you write it down. So this is a wonderful way of starting to get used to your positive self-talk. We trust our negative self-talk because we've heard it so many times. And once you repeat something so many times, it becomes your reality. So I encourage you to take that action. So let's end with this amazing session. I feel like there's a lot we can talk about with a brief meditation. So close your eyes, take a deep breath in and out. Bring to mind a challenge you are facing right now. And notice how you are feeling in your body. And now just gently shift your focus. And imagine the best possible outcome for this situation. So if it is your work situation, just imagine the best possible outcome. You getting that promotion. Why don't we practice that? So if you are in a work situation and you always think you are not getting what you deserve, just imagine, cultivate the best possible outcome. Visualize it vividly, see it, feel it, believe it. And notice how your body responds. A subtle shift from tension to maybe possibility. And also being aware it may not be happening immediately because we are so conditioned just that any thought of positivity, we often crush it back. So take another deep breath, just notice what is coming. But start to vividly imagine a positive outcome. Keep imagining it. And whenever your negative talk comes, you say, this is not the truth. This is the new truth. I deserve that. I am capable of that. And again, the negativity becomes stronger. You counter it with more kind positivity. And take another deep breath. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes and re-engage with the world. So optimism isn't about ignoring reality. It's about choosing to see possibility. It's about leading yourself with hope. And mindfulness is the bridge that gets you there. So if you want to rewire your brain for positivity, start today. Begin by the 3 good things, then do the 7-day positivity practice. And also remember, negativity is a Teflon. Positivity is your Velcro. So your mind will never be the same. So thank you for listening in today. And if you like what we do, please share your comments, thoughts, and come back to these sessions as many times as possible and share it with as many people as possible. So thank you for being here with me, Nikhil. And this has been another practice, another talk on rewiring your mind through positivity. Thank you.